All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and a very warm welcome to all of you. Hope you all had no trouble getting in to the location. On behalf of ILRI and 1CGAR Digital Innovation Initiative and all the wonderful partners that you can see, I welcome you all once again to ICT4AG 2024 at Nairobi. As you're all aware, the theme for this year's ICT4AG conference is localizing impact, right? From the days of precision agriculture, way back probably in early and late 90s, all the way through to tiny large language models today, which allow you to run these language models on your mobile phones, I think the digital innovation has really opened up serious possibilities, serious innovation possibilities, which are, I think, enabling newer pathways for the community, people like all of us, to really solve a lot of the intractable problems of agriculture. So the ICT4AG event, which you're all attending today, it's not just an event, right? What we are trying to do is we are trying to create a community, because I think all of you agree, I'm sure all of you will agree that solving a problem holistically, even if in spite of all the great technologies we'll have, is not something that can be done just by any single actor or any single individual. It takes a community to sort of put a solution that really works and solves a serious problem. And the classic analogy, when I think about the classic analogy I had, if you look at the GPS technology, right? The GPS technology itself was created somewhere in 80s, right? But it took an Uber, or it took an Uber Eats, or it took a Swiggy, so on and so forth, to really bring the power of that technology to something that serves a very real purpose on the ground, right? So therefore, technology in itself is not an end. Technology is just an instrument, but you really need a community of people who are driven by a purpose, who are driven by passion to solve a problem on the ground, right? So the ICT4AG, also, this is an opportunity for all of us to sort of gather together, network with each other. I'm so happy to see so many familiar faces. A lot of them that I have personally interacted with in the course of my last 10 years of this journey. It's great to see all of you coming together, right? And just a bit of the program that we have tried to put together. One of the things that really amazes me about Nairobi as a location is, as we were putting the program together, the breadth of topics, the breadth of speakers, the breadth of experiences that Nairobi seems to attract, I don't think any other location really attracts, right? So that's beauty of Nairobi. Probably it's the power of this place. So I have no doubt, at least in my mind, I believe this is the center of gravity as far as ICT for agriculture is concerned, right? No wonder we have Brenda, who is the global lead of ICT4D at IFAD, sitting with us, and we'll have the pleasure of hearing her address in a short while from now. And just a couple of more points about the program that we have put together for the next 2 days. We have over 40 speakers, right? For a 1.5 day event, me and my team, Kanika, Akshata, we had to really struggle to really accommodate all of you, because we really didn't think each of the topics that these 40 speakers are bringing about, I think is really a topic that is novel in its own way. It's really, it merits that it is a topic that needs to be communicated to interested participants. So therefore, we have tried our best to accommodate all the 40 speakers. We have over 140 participants who are joining in person, but don't be mistaken, there are countless others who are joining online, right? So we have, the team from Dev Global. I'd again like to acknowledge them. We really strived hard to enable all the audio visual and all the technicalities to ensure that all the countless others who are joining from across the globe are able to join in virtually. Speaking a bit about the topics, we have topics that feature socially relevant topics, like we have a small track on gender and some of these social inclusion topics, which are very critical. So we'll have speakers who will be speaking about some of those aspects of ICT4AG, all the way through to something super cool. So we'll have a team from International Water Management Institute who will be presenting about a use case on the use of augmented reality and virtual reality for ag. You heard me right. So they're going to have some headsets today and demonstrate how they're going to use that in their use case. And last but not the least, to help us sort of capture the key messages and ensure that we have a very good social media footprint and ensure the key messages are communicated out. We do have Tam, my colleague from ILRI, who will help us do a lot of the social media stuff, but we also have a group of wonderful young people, very enthusiastic young people called Next Gen Ambassadors. Again, these are a strong community, a loyal community of young people who've been with the ICT4Ag for some time now. So we have a few of those volunteers who are with us in person, and during the course of the day, they might just reach out to some of you, try to take your quick video bites and try to promote that on social media. So I'd request you to kindly accord your cooperation to each one of them as and when they sort of reach out to you, right? And yeah, that's all I have on my talking point. Thanks a lot once again. Hope you all have a great conference and do enjoy the hospitality of ILRI. And may I now request our Deputy Director General, Dr. Ian Wright, to come and welcome you all and also give his opening remarks. Thank you. Over to you, Ian.
Thank you very much, Ram. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to ILRI. Welcome back to those of you who've been here before, and a very warm welcome to those of you who are making your first visit to ILRI. And also welcome to all of those of you who are online. I don't see how many are online, but I gather it's a considerable number of people from around the world. So you're all very, all very welcome. Now, I don't have to tell you, excuse me, I don't have to tell you that Kenya has been one of the early pioneers in promoting and mainstreaming the use of digital platforms. Everyone around the world has heard of M-Pesa, for example. And now most countries have their own version of digital payments. And today, most of the world has learned about the role of mobile payments in enabling financial inclusion. Kenya also has a national digital master plan, 2022 to 2032, which builds on the 2014 to 17 blueprint for leveraging and deepening the contribution of ICT to catalyze economic growth. And I have no doubt that going forward, ICTs and digital platforms will enable growth and sustainable outcomes for agriculture, livestock, and the allied sectors. As we know, agriculture has gone through multiple revolutions in the past, the last perhaps being the Green Revolution. But most of those revolutions took place on the farm, at the farm level, whether they be improved seeds, fertilizer, mechanization, and so on. But the digital revolution in agriculture, sometimes referred to as the fourth revolution, goes way beyond the farm and impacts on the whole agri-food system, as well as on farm itself. So digital technologies have the potential to transform agri-food systems in unprecedented ways. Now, in the past, digital agriculture was perhaps synonymous with precision agriculture or smart farming or e-extension. The term today has a much broader scope, with the potential use of digital technologies way beyond the farm and in areas of value chains, markets, finance, farming networks, and so on. And digitalization of value chains has the potential to not only deliver benefits like financial inclusion and better market access to smallholders, but also improve their access to extension. The penetration of mobile phones, as well as advances in mobile wireless technologies, create unique opportunities to reach remote and underserved farmers. Improving accessibility and timeliness of dissemination on weather and market information can help farmers adapt their management to climate change impacts and build resilience. Receiving climate information, especially of impending weather events, can help farmers take preemptive actions and minimize crop production losses from weather and climate-induced events. Now, as we are here in Nairobi, where there is huge capacity and Kenya's been a leader in the whole area of digitization, as Ram has mentioned, I just want to draw attention to one thing. This little badge I'm wearing here that says CFS, stands for Committee on World Food Security. And I'm the vice chair of a high-level panel of experts that provides scientific advice to that UN committee. We produced a report last year on data and digitalization of agriculture. And one of the things that we pointed out in that report was that in many parts of the world, the lack of capacity is potentially a serious limitation to the deployment of many of these technologies. Perhaps not in Kenya or in India, But in many countries in the world, that lack of capacity is a serious hindrance, and it risks broadening the digital divide unless we pay attention to it. So one of our recommendations in that report was that there needs to be more investment in the human capacity and the institutional capacity to take advantage of this revolution. As I say, it's not very obvious sitting here in Kenya, but in many parts of the world, it's a major challenge. But I'm very glad that the government of Kenya, through KALRO, has been at the forefront of piloting various digital platforms to support its farmers and its livestock keepers. Platforms like the Kenya Agricultural Observation Platform or the Kenya Agricultural Market Information System are substantially improving the availability, access, and transmission of weather, markets, and other agronomic information to farmers and livestock keepers. I'm also told that Kenya is probably the only country that now has a registry of over 6 million farmers, and this effort will now pave the way for the fertilizer subsidy system that's unparalleled elsewhere. What, however, stands out with KALRO's digital efforts is their spirit of collaboration, which was critical in creating many more digital platforms in partnerships. At ILRI, we've also been testing and deploying digital platforms like the African Asian Dairy Genetic Gains Programme, or CASNet, which you'll hear more about this afternoon. We work very closely with KALRO, with KLMC and other government departments to institutionalize those platforms and also mobilize efforts to build human capacity. The ICTforAg Nairobi chapter, which is hosting this event today, couldn't have come at a better time and place. I think there are over 140 participants or so expected in the room, with many, many more online from across Africa and Asia. And the agenda, as Ram has highlighted, features an exciting lineup of speakers drawing from agtechs, researchers, NGOs, development organizations, as well as government agencies like the Kenya Space Agency and KALRO. So I'm sure that you will leave this afternoon, or tomorrow afternoon, sorry, excited and satisfied with making new connections, learning about new initiatives, as well as, I hope, making some new friends. So thank you once again, and I hope you enjoy the next 1.5 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian. That was a great context. We also had requested Dr. Eliud Kiriger, DG of KALRO, but unfortunately, due to some unavoidable invitations, he nominated our good friend, Salim, who is the Director of ICT, to represent him. So Salim, over to you.
Thank you, Ram.
Why don't you take this yourself?
No, it's okay. Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Tutal. First, maybe to pass some warm greetings from the Director General, KALRO, Dr. Eliud Kiriger, who wished to be here with us today, but unfortunately, as you may be aware, this Saturday, the nation is celebrating Madaraka Day, and the theme for this year, Madaraka Day, is on agriculture. So what we are doing from the agricultural landscape, we have a series of exhibitions which started from Monday to this Saturday, trying to showcase and demonstrate different agricultural innovation. And as with that, His Excellency, the President, directed all the senior government officials, including the cabinet secretaries, to attend those exhibitions in a more of a planned way. And all the CEOs for agricultural institutions have been asked to be there to welcome these guests throughout the week. So it is for that reason that Dr. Eliud is unable to join us today, but he's really, really passionate on ICT for agriculture, and he really welcomes any innovation on ICT for agriculture. So my name is Salim Kinyimu. I'm the Director ICT at KALRO. I also lead data and digital initiatives at KALRO and also within the Ministry of Agriculture. What I would like to share with this great audience today is that when we do an analysis of the Kenya agricultural landscape, what we are seeing is that most Kenyan farmers are smallholder farmers. These smallholder farmers, big number of them, from the records that we have, 51% of these farmers own or cultivate less than 1 acre piece of land. And it is these same farmers that are hit hard by climate change. It is these same farmers that are hit hard by microclimatic conditions in different locations. They have been hit hard by emerging and migratory pests. These farmers have also suffering from soil acidity due to different land use and land practices. So what is happening to this farmer? They are now reaping less and they are unable to optimize their farm effort to reap more from their activities. As government, coming from the public sector, the government has now committed and is now determined to improve productivity, improve profitability within this already existing 1 acre piece of land, because this is the only resource that our farmers have. And for the government to achieve this, we had a number of deliberations and a number of discussion around how best can we improve productivity and profitability within these small resources. And we agreed that the best way to address this is through data-driven models, and also we move towards precision agriculture. In Kenya, when we say digital solution for improved agricultural productivity, we are not talking about the drones, we are not talking about the IoT sensors in the farm, but what our farmers need is to package information and knowledge that they can be able to make farm decisions. That is what our Kenyan farmers are missing. They don't have the right information at the right time. So farmers are faced with the problem on they are no longer sure on how to practice different agricultural enterprises. Farmers are no longer sure on when to start practicing. Climate change is real. I might not be that too old, but when I was growing up, in the month of March, in our local village, we were sure that was the beginning of planting season for the long rain. Nowadays, you can even reach mid-April, there is no rain. So farmers are no longer sure on what is the right time to start planting. If there are agronomists in this room, you know what planting date means to productivity. And also, they are also not sure on what is the right time to start harvesting because of other post-harvestal laws and so on. Again, issues of suitabilities, which contribute to reaping more within the limited resources. Farmers are again not sure on what is the best variety to grow within their soil based on their soil and other environmental characteristics. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we need to do to our farming community is to give them the right knowledge that they can use and improve their productivity. We are all working to serve these farmers. And as ICT professionals or as ICT people working in the ag sector, I think our role is to ensure we optimize ICT as a vehicle to drive this transformative change. From the government side, we have already made the foundational groundbreaking work by first trying to aggregate all the relevant data sets that this country may need to move towards precision agriculture. And we started by knowing who are our stakeholders. You have heard the director saying Kenya is a very unique country where we now have established a complete farmer register, digital farmer register, well geotagged, well referenced, of more than 6.4 million farmers. That was the starter. Now what we are doing, we are building on this same register by now overlaying it with soil fertility maps, so that not only knowing our stakeholders, but we also know what soil characteristics exist. And that is still another journey towards precision agriculture. We have rich knowledge on agronomic information with a very strong local context that we feel if we can use that information. I know ILRI has produced a lot of livestock knowledge, which is local, is contextualized within the Kenyan setup. It's local to Kenya. Now it's time we take that information, we link this data, and then now we squeeze out information and knowledge that can benefit farmers. And what we are looking for here is ICT to be the driver of all this, being the anchor of all these emerging disciplines, data analytics, data engineering, bringing AI, but the goal is to serve this farmer. And again, for us to do this, government alone cannot do it on its own. We need functional public-private partnership, functional PPPs. The word is functional PPPs, because private actors can bring in now the agtechs. The agtechs will assist the government to double up the extension effort in the last mile. So we need everyone. For us to serve these farmers that are hit with many challenges and emerging challenges, we need everyone. With that, I think I'll be following keenly on the discussion, and I'm looking forward to interact more with both the physical participants and the online participants. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Salim. Quite right. Like, I should thank you once again for bringing the focus back to the smallholder farmer, because in all this hype and excitement about technology, you sometimes miss what is the purpose, right? And I think your comment about functional, very important. You just don't sign an MOU just to get a good media bite. It has to mean something. And just to also quickly update you, as you rightly said, ILRI also has been producing a lot of great content and knowledge. So we are having a dedicated half-day session tomorrow where ILRI will be featuring some of our own work in the area of digital agriculture, followed by a session with Kenya Space Agency, Kenya Med Department, and KALRO. So we want ICT4Ag to be a platform that sort of facilitates that conversation, sort of foster that community across CJR, across partners, and across KALRO, so on and so forth. Thanks a lot once again. And next, I'd like to invite Dr. Boniface Akuku, who probably needs no introduction. He's probably the grand old man of digital agriculture, in not old in literal sense, but he's been around for a long time, done a lot of stuff. Over to you, Boniface. I hope that's probably an appropriate introduction to you. Let me just move it. Oops.
Sorry.
Just hold this. Let me pull your slides up.
Good morning. I know you're not taking breakfast, but
Is this one? Yeah. And you'll also have to introduce your organizational affiliation because I'm sure you've been there in many places. So.
okay. Yes. So as Ram is saying that I'm the grandfather of digital agriculture in Africa. So every country I go to, they call me the grandfather of digital agriculture in Africa. So I've accepted the name, I'm the grandfather.
I think so, yeah.
So because I'm the grandfather cannot talk without digital. So I have to make a presentation.
Okay, you just have
As they make it up, some Boniface Akuku, as you've heard, I work for the World Bank, supporting the global office under digital and data practice. So I'm supporting African countries at the moment. Having served 10 years in Kenya, I thought it's time to serve Africa. And Salim reminded me as I was coming that I must mention that I'm his mentor. I didn't want to mention that, but he insisted I must mention that I'm his mentor. So Salim, thank you. I'm glad that I knew Salim 12, 13 years ago as a young man from college. But I saw a very bright young man, very bright young man. And I brought him in to work with me. And he got a job later on, and I was called for reference. And I told the employer at your own risk. So he didn't get that job because of me. Because I wanted it to remain with him. But Salim is not regretting that he did not get a job. Which place was it? But help, yeah. You will be suffering in help. Maybe you'll be in court now. But today is the director of ICT in KALRO. Yeah, so being the grandfathers, do you want to talk about? Yeah, so, he's saying that I serve many organizations. So let me just leave it at World Bank, otherwise I'll confuse you. I don't want to confuse Brenda and everybody else. Let me leave it at that point. Okay, so I'll go straight to my presentation. I've taken 2 minutes introducing myself. So I tried to bring us to context. So what's the Kenya digital agriculture journey? You might not see it clearly, but just explain. So this journey started in 2012 when we entered to basically establish the digital public infrastructure using ready technology and connected enterprises. This is because when you talk about digital agriculture, digital infrastructure is a must. And every country I talk to, I'm trying to advise them now to basically ensure that they establish the digital public infrastructure. Kenya digital agriculture succeeded because the first step we did in 2012 was to basically establish a digital public infrastructure. And this was done using what you call future-ready technology and connected systems. And the technology that was built then was a 10+ year technology, which is still working today. It's called future-ready technology. It's pay as you use, pay on the go. Very simple, very dynamic, and that's why Kenya is where it is today. Now, coming to going there in 2015, 2016, the next step was basically to unleash local innovation, where we wanted to drive value from ag data. I mean, there's a lot of data in agriculture. KALRO, where I was working then, the CG Center where most of you work, FAO and IFAD and all these colleagues doing beautiful work in agriculture. The work in agriculture end up in peer-reviewed journals, it ends up in books, it ends up in people's computers and people's laptops. It never reached the intended beneficiary, the smallholder farmers, the policymakers, other value chain actors. And everybody's trying their own thing, yet science has made data and knowledge and information available that can help all the stakeholders. So we were addressing three problems: availability, accessibility, and usability. As I said, all this knowledge were in peer-reviewed journals, books, papers, and computers, and people's head. Where I grew up, Striga was a problem since I was born. And one day I was talking to one of our researchers in KALRO, and the gentleman told me there's a variety that is Striga resistant, drought tolerant, and high yielding. I said, you can't be serious. That time I think I was 35 years old. For 35 years, my community have been suffering. I told, no, go and plant it. I planted the variety. It was high yielding, drought tolerant, and Striga resistant. And everybody in my community asked me, where did you get it from? The thing had been lying in KALRO for more than 20 years. So what then was the essence of research? Research is meant to solve a practical, persistent problem. But the problem is that the problem has been solved, but it is not with the users. So we embarked on a journey of getting all this information in a place where you can access them anytime, anywhere, any device. But availability do not mean accessibility. You can make it available, is it accessible? So the second thing was to ensure how do we make sure that it can be accessed? So we looked at what's the capacity of our farmers? How can they access this information? For the young ones, they can use smartphones. So we turned this into mobile apps. For the nuns without smartphone, they can use SMS. So we transform some of them to SMSs. For those who cannot use SMS, we establish a call center where they can call and get information. So that is how we looked at accessibility. And then accessibility do not translate to usability. You can make it available, accessible, but is it usable? When I read those peer-reviewed journals, they had good science, good knowledge. But you read it for a minute and you throw it away because it's some stuff that's meant for those who went to school. That time I was a master's degree graduate holder, top student in the country, but I couldn't understand. If a top student in computer science could not understand, how about my grandmother? How about my mother? So we embarked on what we call transforming the knowledge into usable content and information. Transform them to visual, into audio, into text, into illustrations, into simple languages. Once I was with farmers and I sent them SMSs, and the message was simple. If there's too much water in your farm, prepare drainage. And 100 farmer plus never understood what I meant. So I tried to explain in vernacular language. Then they said, you would have said, if there's too much water in your farm, remove the water. Removing the water, we know. Preparing drainage, we don't know. Just imagine, transforming it from preparing drainage to removing water makes a whole lot of difference. That's when you talk about local innovation. How do we drive value from agricultural data? How we drive value from agricultural knowledge? How we drive value from all this work that billions, World Bank, IFAD, USAID, GIZ, Bill and Melinda Gates are spending in research in agriculture. They are billions of dollars. How much have you spent? You can't remember. So much. Okay, then we move on now to developing a roadmap, because when you're implementing kind of a large program like this, and being the pioneers, you need to basically understand how do we move from point A to point Z. Without a roadmap, if you're walking a journey where you've never been before, you need a guider. That's why when foreigners come to Kenya, I see them paying millions, somebody just telling them, taking them around like this, because they don't know where the elephant is. They don't know where the giraffe is. So somebody has to take you to show you giraffe, because you might mistake a giraffe and go and then the elephant eats you. And the guide is earning something. So we have to build a guide. This is a roadmap and a strategy that basically also help us to realize it's important. And secondly, we could not do it alone. So we had to bring in also other actors. Now, this was basically to help us move to path to efficiency and scale, because we could not scale alone. Lastly, now, where are we now? Where we are now is we're in the era of AI. And we're now at the point where Kenya is now beginning to deploy AI into agriculture. And I think this will come in tomorrow as we go along. Now, I've taken 8 minutes. I only have 2 minutes left. So I'll try to do it in not more than 5 minutes. Okay. I've graced time. Thank you. The grandfather has been given some grace time. Good to be a grandfather. Yes. So again, just for your knowledge, I know you're from many countries, and I know you've been told Kenya is the bedrock of digital agriculture. And just to paint the ecosystem well, so there are building blocks that we have learned from the Kenya ecosystem that are very important. I've talked about the digital public infrastructure. And in that, it's important to assess the ecosystem, do an assessment. And Brenda, thank you for doing this in some of the countries you're leading. It's important to do an ecosystem before you basically embark into doing digital agriculture. Number two, you need to develop a dynamic data platform. Salim has talked about it, and I will not repeat that. Create a digital farmer registry. Salim has talked about it, and the DDG talked about it. I told the World Bank in 2017, I was not working for them, I was their client. And I told them, if you're giving me money, number one thing, we have to create a digital farmer registry. And I tell them, we have been cheating farmers, and I don't want to be alive because I want to go to heaven. How can you change the life of somebody you don't know? Every time I read papers, we want to improve productivity, we want to improve income, we want to improve and improve. No one is not improving. How do you improve the life of somebody you don't know? The first step is to know me, then you can improve my life. Where do I live? What do I do? What's my knowledge? You are busy sending me SMS, then I never went to class 1. So I can't read it. So understanding the farmer, understanding the smallholder farmer capacity, preference, capability is key to improving the life of that farmer. But it does not end with the farmer. Where the rubber meets the road is the farm. You also have to understand the farm. So we have to also geotag and georeference the farm, because that's where activity takes place. With one single point, data point of GPS coordinates, I can give you the weather forecast for that farm. I can run climate models and tell you how that, what has been happening in that farm for the last 100 years, and can predict what will happen in the next few weeks or so. I can tell you some basic soil from satellite data, soil pH, soil texture, soil characteristics, some of them. I can tell you land use, land cover. I can tell you how that land has been used for the last few years using data cube. I can tell the nearest market, the nearest agro dealer, the nearest bank, the nearest trader, just by that one single point of GPS coordinate of the farm. That's how important creating a farmer registry is important if you have to transform agriculture digitally. Farmers need advice about the position of their farm. People take GPS of the home they sleep. They do nothing in the home. Okay. Then number 2 building block is establishing data governance structures. Governance is everything. I go to countries, they don't even have a digital data transformation unit, digital agriculture transformation unit. They don't have anybody there to lead it. Digital agriculture is reporting some finance guy who's very mean. That's not what IT is. Some M&D, some whatever, you name them. So we must empower the Office of Digital Agriculture, the Office of ICT, to a level that it can have authority to be able to bring transformation that we need. We need champion leadership. Thank God Salim is now a champion, and there are many champions with him. We need champion leadership. We need innovative thinkers and thought leaders. We need disruptive technology from private sector. Okay, so we need to fund innovation and unleash investment, and we need to leverage on that. Now, as I close, in the assessment we did in 2014 with a friend of mine called Dr. Demola, who was working in the World Bank then, we came up with 4 things. Number 1 is for you to succeed, you need instruments in digital agriculture. The instruments here are investments, and that's how the World Bank was been able to invest and fund digital agriculture in Kenya, because we had a framework for investment. Where do we want to invest in? Where are critical areas? Number 2, there's need for technical assistance. Digital agriculture is a new animal in the continent. And there's need for technical assistance. FAO, Gerald, the team here are offering a lot of technical assistance. ILRI, CIAT, and all these institutions are doing a lot of good work in offering technical assistance, because the new animal in the continent, we need technical assistance. You need policy, because policy, the DDG talked about it. Kenya has a very strong ICT policy framework in the country. Number 2, you need to identify the pain points. And now, in 2019, then the government of Netherlands asked me to do a study for them through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The paper is published, Digital Farming in Kenya. You can Google Digital Farming in Kenya, Boniface will get already published under the Foreign Affairs website of Netherlands. And the question was, we have been having technology in the Netherlands, which works very well in Europe. We take them to Africa, they never work. What's the problem? The answer is simple. You cannot copy-paste digital agriculture. You need to understand the pain points, the context of each country, of each farmer, of each people. That's the problem. So you need to understand pain points. So we looked at production pain points, marketing, and enabling environment. Number 3, you need to understand the role of stakeholders. And here you need to understand the producers, the small-scale farmers, the medium, and the large scale. Yes, we focus on small scale, but it's important to think about the medium and the large scale. They also have a role to play. If you're to move agriculture to commercial agriculture into productivity, we must also think about the other 2 segments. For years, we've been focusing on small-scale farming, which is okay, but it's time to think out of the box. I'm helping Ghana to think out of the box, and we're seeing how that's working on our test bed. We'll see how that works out. The commercial sector is important, and the public sector is important, because public sector, there are things that public sector can do very well, but there are things public sector can never do at all. There are things private sector can do very well, but there are things private sector cannot do at all, or can do poorly. And lastly, you need strategies. You need strategies. So in the strategy here is where we emphasize on ag data and digitalization, and we need to prioritize innovation. It's about innovation. It's about data and innovation. Data is useless if it does not turn into innovation. Data is useless. Farmers do not need data. They need a service. So how do we turn that data into a service? Talk about ag data. Ag data. Ag data is important for academicians, but it's not important for any farmers. Don't need data to apply in the farm. They need a service. And lastly, we need to focus on scale and impact. Many times we do siloed things in our own cocoons just to get donor funding, just to publish something, and just to all these things. But we need to think about scale and impact. If my mother's life cannot change, then I don't need it. I want to end it there. I think I've taken now 18 minutes. I think this can share this slide. This just telling you that the policy framework is strong. There's a digital transformation economy, there's digital sustainability, the digital inclusion, and digital responsibility. You need to, if you think about a policy framework, think about digital transformation economy, think about digital sustainability, think about digital inclusion, and think about digital responsibility. All those are key for having an enabled framework. Yes. Let me enter there. The grandfather can talk until tomorrow.
Thank you. That's all the wisdom, right? That was a great presentation. A couple of quick thoughts. I think, as you were speaking about the example of Netherlands, one very beautiful quote from founder of this company called Waze came to my mind. Said, "Fall in love with the problem, not the solution." We tend to be like solution oriented, so we try to force fit the problem without actually falling in love with the problem. And your point about I think you need a new breed, like academicians who think like entrepreneurs who think like academicians, policymakers who think like private sector and academicians, right? So that's kind of the change in mindset that we need to cultivate if we really have to handle and get the best out of this animal called digital agriculture. Thanks a lot, Boniface, once again. And now I take the pleasure of inviting Brenda, who's, sorry? Brenda Gunde, who's the global lead of ICT4D at IFAD. Thank you, Brenda. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Ram. In Africa, they always say that if your grandfather speaks, you don't speak. It doesn't matter what they say. If they say this, you don't speak. But in this, I have a privilege that I can still speak after the grandfather has spoken. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And also good morning to the colleagues online. It is a privilege and honor that I can speak to you today on a different topic. That is more on accelerating agriculture transformation through financing digital innovations. As we've heard from the other speakers, investment and financing is going to be important. As we stand today at the intersection of agriculture and technology, the possibilities of enhancing productivity, sustainability, and also profitability in the farm are immense. However, when you're looking at all these possibilities, financial investment is going to be important. The financing gap for agri-techs and SMEs in Africa is actually a significant challenge for us to reach the scale that has been spoken about with the other speakers before. There is no one size fits all when it comes to financing agri-techs or agri-SMEs or even fintechs, if we have to reach the scale that we're talking about. Currently, we have different myriads of technologies around, but they're not reaching the scale that we need. If you look at the number of farmers that are actually being left behind without being accessing these digital technologies that we're talking about, we need to do something about that. According to a report that USAID has done on agri-SMEs financing, but also agri-techs, there is about $100 billion gap in unmet demand for financing. And among this is within Southern Africa, and Sub-Saharan Africa is about 65 billion. So if you look at $100 billion financing that is needed, and already 65 billion of it is actually in Sub-Saharan Africa. That's something that we need to start pondering about. This gap is mostly because the enterprises that are there now, they're too large for microfinance. They're also unable to access traditional commercial loans. We did a landscape study in East and Southern Africa on agri-techs and fintechs, and we reviewed that agri-tech providers are often seen as more risky, less profitable, and also other business models that they have lower potential to invest bigger than the other companies within the sector that are not doing agriculture. Similarly, commercial lenders are also facing challenges when it comes to investing in agri-SMEs. The risk is at least twice as higher as other sectors, and the returns on agri-SME lending is only about 4 to 5% lower. So this has led to suboptimal lending conditions and limited successful models for scaling access to capital. The financial institutions that are in Africa are engaging in investment, but they're offering, for example, debt financing that in less favorable terms to other sectors. We see that there is perceived higher risk and lower returns when it comes to agriculture investment. These challenges are not only faced by the investors and the lenders. Agri-tech and agri-SMEs also, studies have shown that despite them receiving seed capital and other financing vehicles, there are limited opportunities for them to gain traction and scale due to lower density of the user base and also challenging to access and even acquire users. Funding is also lagging, and a broader tech industry due to the complexity of the sector and also limited exit options. When you look at digital penetration, it's not universal. There are opportunities where there are certain farmers that are not receiving access to technologies because of lack of access to electricity, low level of digital literacy, and also in terms of high technology costs. Another compelling challenge is a growing number of young people. If you look at Africa today, the demographic of young people is the largest that has ever been. We have about 1.2 billion young people. A significant percentage of them, they are in rural areas. And in Africa alone, 10 to 12 million young people are entering into the job market every year. So investing in rural SMEs and agribusinesses is essential to spark productivity and improve incomes and livelihoods. Ladies and gentlemen, what I've portrayed today is not all doom and gloom. There are potential for Africa. The studies are showing that agri-SMEs, they handle 60% of our food production. So they're already in the business, 60% of them, they're the ones that are doing food production and trade on the continent. And they have significant growth opportunity to improve livelihoods and enhance food security. There are opportunities, for example, initiatives like ILRI Africa that are aiming to mobilize about 700 million in lending to agri-SMEs by providing market incentives and such as first loans, coverage, originating incentives, and impact bonuses. We have seen also the ABC Fund, we've seen small foundations and other impact funds that are working towards implementing various initiatives to financing for being development of bridging the gap of financing. Investments in digital innovation will remain a key factor to accelerate digital transformation. It is therefore crucial to emphasize the importance of localizing the impact of these digital innovations. While we have global solutions that are providing the framework for successful implementation, their success depends on adaptation to local context. We have heard Boniface talking about that there is need to understand the context of which these technologies are going to be implemented in. To enhance investment readiness, we need to equip the agribusinesses with the knowledge and tools to attract and manage investment effectively, including business planning, financial management, and even market analysis. That's the important role of data. On the other hand, improving policy and regulatory issues will be key mechanisms to provide insights into the policy and regulatory environment, including data governance, protection, and privacy of the use and users will be important, while identifying opportunities to improve finance and facilitating private sector investment. As I said before, ladies and gentlemen, there's no one size fits all. When it comes to financing, we need to understand unique challenges and opportunities for small producers. Solutions must be tailored to address specific needs, specific soil type, specific climate conditions, and even crop varieties. Engaging with local farmers and stakeholders ensure that technologies are relevant and practical. This empowers their farmers to adopt and utilize these technologies. As we'll see in the different interventions in the course of the next 2 days, farmers possess valuable traditional knowledge and have experienced informed innovation and design. Most of the time, we design a product outside the user base. Then we try to retrofit the farmers to utilize the technology when they have not themselves informed the technology. We need to ensure that our technologies are more robust and applicable and fit for use. On the other hand, investments into agri-techs and agri-SMEs will require innovative financing solutions. Government, financial institutions, private companies can collaborate to create funding pools dedicated to agriculture innovation. Public and private partnerships, as it was spoken today, can help de-risk the investments and provide necessary financial and technical support to farmers. We have seen a growing traction in Africa infrastructure investments, as Boniface talked about the DPIs, to unlock private sector innovation. We need forums like this to define the roadmaps towards its achievement. Developing a roadmap only is good, but we need to ensure that it's actually implemented. We need collaborative efforts to foster direct interactions and relationship building among investors, agribusinesses, financial institutions, policymakers, and other stakeholders. As IFAD, we have started coordinating with a few countries to raise financing opportunities for these initiatives, but we need other like-minded institutions to collaborate with us on this journey. If indeed we aim to localize impact, we need to promote alternative financing vehicles for agri-techs and agri-SMEs in Africa. We need to ensure that that gap that I talked about before is actually bridged with blended finance as a strategic approach towards the use of development finance and philanthropic funds to mobilize capital flows and emerging in the emerging markets. This approach will help to de-risk investments for private sector. We are calling upon public and private partnerships with impact investment, development financial institutions, and even IFIs to collaborate on developing finance vehicles, including green financing, that involves funding projects that have positive environmental impacts, agri-SMEs that implement sustainable practices to develop green technologies to access funds from these green bonds and even green banks. We need to make the investments in agri-tech real. Governments also have a role to play to provide guarantees or subsidies to reduce the risk of private investors, encouraging them to invest in agri-SMEs. In conclusion, I always say that Africa, people say Africa has potential, Africa has potential. I've heard this, I'm not old enough, but I've heard this a lot. We need to move from Africa has potential because Africa is the potential. We need to access the necessary capital to grow, contribute to sustainable agriculture development. Financing digital in agriculture is not an economic necessity. We are here today. I have not eaten breakfast, but I've had tea. There was milk in it. Milk was produced by a farmer. The tea was produced by a farmer somewhere in the highlands. We have all eaten something that has been produced by a farmer today. Even sugar. As we face the challenges of feeding Africa, investing in agri-techs is a moral imperative. It's not an economic opportunity. We need to harness the power of technology to revolutionize farming practices, adopting innovative finance solutions, and emphasize the power of localizing impact. We can empower farmers, we can enhance food security, and we are going to promote sustainable development. Let us commit to working together. We want to do our part. The question I want to ask you, are you? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Ram has asked me to make an announcement. Yeah, I know as you are here to hear what's going on in the continent and globally, and where you can also tap in. So I also support an organization called Tomorrow Now. Tomorrow Now is a weather tech company, a nonprofit that is providing the next generation weather intelligence. Climate change being a critical aspect. So if you need support in the area of climate change, the area of weather intelligence, please reach out to me. My contact will be available. Ram will make it available. Lastly, also, to walk the talk, my daughter, who is 23 years old, registered a company called Kilima Kika. You can see it on the wall. It's one of the sponsors of this event. And in Kilima Kika, we are trying to demonstrate this technology to farmers at the grassroots level. So it's one of those young professionals. She's a lawyer by profession, but she said that she wants to carry what the father is doing now practically to the field. So it's a knowledge builder, establish a knowledge lab where farmers can now begin to see how this digital technology work on the ground. So these are only two announcements I wanted to make. So if you also want to establish something on the ground where you want this technology to reach the last mile, then the Knowledge Lab under Kilima Keka is available. It's one of the sponsors for this event. Thank you. And that's my daughter, my firstborn. She's 23 years old.
Thank you. Thank you, Brenda. I think that was a great talk. I think because end of the day, all these concepts of great. Ultimately, if you don't put in the money, you can't really make anything happen, right? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot. That concludes the inaugural session of ICTforAg 2024 Nairobi chapter. So according to the program, what we are going to do is, Kanika, where do we go for the group photograph? So we all walk out through that door. We'll have a quick group photograph, break for tea, and we convene back at 10:30. And I really urge you to try and be back on time by 10:30 because the 3 sessions after tea are going to be really exciting. One of them is going to be a hybrid session between 11:30 and 12:15. We will actually be connecting virtually to the ICTforAg that's happening in Delhi, where the GIZ and BMGF funded project called AIEP program. The abbreviation sort of fails me now. So AIEP cohorts are going to present their innovations, they're creating some DPGs to really crack this problem of last mile dissemination of content. So you'll have some exciting talks. So with that, thank you once again for sitting through the first 1 hour. Hope it was enjoyable. Thank you.